I I graduated in 2000, and it was a very difficult time to graduate from college, especially in design. I think in like technology related fields, because there was this what they call the dot-com burst or bubble burst, and all of these like companies that had started up completely like folded, and we went into a recession of sorts, and jobs became scarce, and I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? And I was in Houston, Texas too, which isn't really known for being like this super inspiring, mecca of art and design and music. So, I was kind of like, I had this mentality like, I don't think I'm going to be able to make a living doing this unless I get out of here. I eventually did get a job as a designer. I worked at this company called Metal, and I worked there for about a year, and then I was fired. I got fired because at that time, and I still kind of have this, I have this honesty about me, where I have no filter, and I was telling Mike that my mom is actually becoming filterless. I was telling him how like she is my biggest fan, growing up and being an artist. She still has all my drawings. I should probably like scan them and create just like a funny little like Tumblr with all of my old artwork from growing up. I think that'd be really funny for people to see. But she's definitely become like a harder critic on me. But anyways, that's sidetrack. So I got fired, and then I was jobless for like almost 2 years. And I was waiting tables and like playing. This is back when like online poker was like really big, so I got into that. Just any way I could make money. And then I was also on the side just helping friends out with doing illustrations or designs for them. So I was kind of building up a personal portfolio of sorts, where I would have clients, but it was like, oh, my friend's friend owns this bar in downtown Houston, and he needs some flyers. So I just do flyers, and I would just get like drink tabs, or they put me on a list so I could bring in like 5 friends, and we would have like 2 free drinks each. Like that's what I was working for at that time period. And this is like 3 years after I graduated. Sorry to sound like a
yeah, you're giving us hope.
Amazing jobs right out of school. Some students are very fortunate and they get really great jobs right out of school, but for me it wasn't the case. And I'm kind of thankful for that, to be honest, because now I'm very much more appreciative of the success that I've and I feel like I work for it, So after I was fired and couldn't find a job, I finally got lucky and landed a job through a friend of mine who I met online. He was leaving a company in LA. It was a web design company, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to come take this job over for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." He was like, "You're okay with moving to LA?" I was like, "Absolutely. I've always wanted to live in New York or LA. I think that's what I need to do." So he got me set up with the owners of the company. They interviewed me, and like next day they offered me the job. I took it, and then next thing you know, I was moving to LA, and I worked there for 2 months, and it was a small little company that did movie websites, so that was cool. I was working on like the Chronicles of Narnia's website, and Chicken Little, and Serenity, all movies that came out in 2004. That's when this was. And then 2 months into it, they fired me. So this is like the second time I got fired. And I'm like, wow, maybe I'm not good at this, because their reason was like, I got hired on as senior designer, and it was a lot of shoes to fill, and I was a little rusty because I hadn't worked like consecutively for a couple of years after I'd gotten fired from the last job, minus just small little freelance jobs, and they fired me because they didn't think I was a good enough designer. So it was kind of a blow to the ego. I had only lived out there for 2 months. I spent all of my money. My parents helped me move out there, in terms of helping me, afford to move out there. And I was like, holy shit, what am I going to do? This is terrible. So I quickly put together a portfolio book and, just started hitting every sort of job posting that there was on the internet. And, targeted LA because I was there. And there was this company called Exopolis, which did web design and motion graphics. They did both. And I was like, oh, that's perfect, because I always wanted to do motion graphics. Now is my chance, my opportunity. So I went in with my book, and they basically hired me on the spot. And I was like, wow, that's insane. Like, thank you, and I was really excited. And I got hired on. My title was senior designer again. And I was like, oh, crap, I've got this, like, really awesome title. Hopefully I can live up to it this time. So, and fortunately, this time I actually did. I think this was, like, where it all kind of came together. It was a really cool company, very young. They'd only been around for, like, a year or two. And everyone was super young and super hungry. And there was a lot of fun projects coming in with, like, Nickelodeon and, all the different, television networks. And also on the web side of it, we had, like, Coca-Cola as a client. And, my wife was a producer. She ended up moving out there. And then we ended up getting married. But I got her a job at the company, and she was producing jobs because she got her degree in radio, television, film at University of Texas. And everything was great. So at that point, I was finally, like, I hit my stride, and I was building up a really great portfolio. And it was a good mix of different kinds of projects, motion graphics, web design, print, and it mixed, a little bit of illustration, a little bit of design, like photo manipulation and things like that. But the company was starting to take a turn, and a lot of the staff employees were starting to talk, and there was, like, a lot of kind of rumors and clamoring going around. So I was like, maybe now's a good time to go freelance. And this is, about a year and a half after being there. And this is just so you have a context of time period. It's 2006. So I decided to go freelance. And it was a great decision for me, I think, because that's when I really started to spread my wings, and I learned a lot too. So I went freelance, and I worked with all of, like, the kind of cool motion graphics companies in Los Angeles. I'm not sure if you guys are very familiar with these companies, but companies like Logan and Brand New School and Motion Theory and Prologue. I worked with all these companies who do all these awesome projects. I got to finally meet my hero, Kyle Cooper. And I finally got to meet a lot of these guys that I looked up to and worked with them and gain their respect, and, also lost some of their respect too, because some of them, like, I had these, like, high hopes of who they are as a person, and they didn't live up to them. A lot of them were jerks, honestly. That goes to show you, and that's kind of why, like, I really made it a point, like, if I ever become successful, like, just to make sure to not become an asshole, and, it's nice to be nice, and being a jerk is never going to get you anywhere, in my opinion. It's like being friendly and being, just, I'd rather put smiles on faces than make people pissed off, and I'd rather, build bridges than burn bridges, so yeah, I freelanced for a long time, and I got to, like, I'll say this about motion graphics. Being a freelancer, primarily working as a motion designer, is that I got to play around with a lot of different styles because it was commercial work. And, they would book me for a job, and then they would give me these agency boards, and they would say, oh, so this is the look. Sometimes they would have, like, specific references, like, these are the references that they like, and this is, where they want to take it. So I had these sort of constraints, but it was kind of a fun exercise on a lot of these projects, because then I got to learn how to, I don't want to say rip something off, but I got to, like, learn how to make something in a certain style, but then I would also kind of put a little twist on it that because I never liked, I'm just going to make it look exactly like that. So I'd always say, okay, well, I'll reference that and this and that and this, and I'll bring that all together, and then it'll be something that that maybe they weren't expecting, but a lot of the times they would get really excited about.